I found the gym bag in the passenger seat of my car. I was just reaching for a towel and my hand hit something hard. Plastic it wasn't. A water bottle. It was one of those cheap black burner phones. I literally just sat there in the parking lot for 20 minutes just staring at the screen. I couldn't even breathe. I eventually turned the phone off and put it right back where I found it. I checked my makeup in the mirror, wiped a smudge off my face, and drove home. For the next 3 months, I just played along. It wasn't even that hard because my life was already mostly just boring chores. I spent a lot of time cleaning things I didn't need to clean, just to keep my head down, while I figured out our joint brokerage account. I knew exactly how much was in there. And I knew how to move it if I could just get the paperwork right. I started seeing a forensic accountant and a divorce lawyer, one of those guys who specializes in the really nasty cases. I told Mark I joined a new Pilates studio in the next town over, so that explained why I was gone for 2 hours every Thursday. In reality, I was just sitting in some sterile glass office, handing over printouts of everything Mark had spent in the last 5 years. Boring stuff is actually the best cover. In April, I spent a whole weekend sorting through a shoebox of crumpled receipts for the CPA. I was on the living room floor with all these dry cleaning slips and gas receipts, and Mark was just on the couch playing video games. He asked if I'd found the receipt for the new lawnmower. Yeah, it's in the home improvement pile, I told him. I didn't mention that I'd found 3 different charges for jewelry stores in a city he told me he'd never even been to. I just slid those into a separate envelope and tucked them into my bra. Then there was the Nextdoor app. If you live in the suburbs, you know that thing is just a cesspool of passive-aggressive people. There was this huge 3-week fight about someone leaving dog poop on the sidewalk on Maple Street. And I spent a whole morning writing this really polite, detailed response about community standards. Mark saw me and just laughed. He told me I was too obsessed with the app. I just said someone had to keep the neighborhood from turning into a slum. While I was typing that, I had a tab open on my laptop with a PDF of our house deed. I was trying to figure out the equity so that by the time he got the papers, he wouldn't have enough left for a decent apartment. I wasn't really thinking about a fair split. I just wanted it all gone around June. The Millers wanted to host the 4th of July block party, but I volunteered instead. I spent days dealing with the potato salad sign-up sheet and arguing with the HOA about where the fireworks could go. Mark asked if we really needed to do it since it was so much work. I don't want the neighbors thinking we've totally given up on the house, Mark, I said. Just make sure you clean the gutters before it rains, or the roof is going to leak again. He groaned and said he'd get to it. He didn't. He was too busy texting on that burner phone. One afternoon, I found a massive ant infestation in the pantry. They were all over the flour and the granola. I spent 4 hours on my hands and knees with vinegar and spray, just scrubbing. It was exhausting, but it gave me a reason to be in the kitchen with the door shut, on my phone with my lawyer, finalizing the asset transfers. By the time our anniversary came around in July, I had most of it ready. The accounts were shifted, the evidence was filed. Everything was set. We went to this expensive Italian place downtown. Dim lighting, warm bread, the whole thing. Mark was being really attentive. He bought me this diamond bracelet that clearly cost a fortune. He looked at me and told me he couldn't imagine his life without me. I love you, Lindsay, he said. I love you too, I told him. I was mostly just thinking about the fact that the bracelet was probably paid for with money from the account I was currently draining. About halfway through the main course, his phone buzzed on the table. Not the burner. His main one. A text popped up from someone saved as a I didn't do anything, just took a sip of my wine. He saw the notification and flipped the phone over fast, and he looked rattled. He went kind of pale and couldn't even look at me. I asked if everything was okay. Yeah, just work stuff, he said. But Mark doesn't have any coworkers whose names start with S. He does, though, have a sister. Sarah. I looked at the diamonds on my wrist, then back at him. I didn't ask who his was or try to grab the phone. I just leaned back and smiled. This risotto tastes a little off, doesn't it? I asked. He didn't say anything. He just stared at me. The drive home from the restaurant was just dead silence. Mark didn't say a word. He just gripped the wheel and stared at the road. I spent the whole ride looking at that diamond bracelet, wondering if it was even worth the headache. Like, if I kept it, he'd just say he bought it for me. But if I could prove he used the wrong accounts for it, it was just more leverage for my lawyer. The next morning, I spent forever in the driveway, with a toothbrush and some baby wipes. Those cheap wipes from the dollar store that just ripped the second you use them. So annoying. I swear they're made of wet tissue paper. There was this gross, sticky mess in the minivan cup holder. Probably old apple juice from soccer practice a few weeks ago. And it had basically turned into glue. I was just scrubbing away, trying to clear my head, while I was on the phone with my lawyer Marcus. The transfer went through, Marcus told me. The money is in the trust. He won't even see it until discovery, and by then it'll be too messy to undo. Okay, I said. And the deed. We're handling the signature for the secondary lien. It looks real. Once that's filed, the equity in the house is basically zero for him. Perfect. Mark came out of the house in his work clothes and just stood there, watching me scrub the cup holder. Do you really need to spend all morning on that? He asked. It's disgusting, Mark. The car smells like fermented sugar, I said. Anyway, did you do the gutters? I saw a clog on the north side. Wait, was it the north side? No, the west, by the oak tree. If it rains this weekend, the roof is going to leak again. He just sighed. I'll get to it. You said that last Tuesday. Just do it. Later that afternoon, I got a request from some woman named Corey King. I didn't know her, but I clicked her profile anyway. She was some kind of consultant. Her profile picture was her in a power suit, smiling. But it was that kind of smile where it looks like she's smelling something rotten. I scrolled through her connections and saw she was linked to Mark. They'd even endorsed each other for leadership and strategic planning. Then she messaged me. Hi Lindsay, it said. I've been working closely with Mark on some upcoming ventures. He's mentioned you're traditional. I thought it might be helpful for us to connect, woman to woman. I've helped a few people navigate things when a marriage just isn't working anymore. I just stared at the screen. I didn't really feel like crying or anything. I just screenshotted the whole thing and emailed it to Marcus. For the next week, I just got obsessed with the Nextdoor app. There was this absolute war going on about someone leaving dog poop on the sidewalk on Maple Street. This woman named Brenda was posting photos of the poop with red circles around it, saying she'd call the police if the culprit didn't come forward. I got right into it. I wrote this long post about community hygiene and argued that the HOA should put a poop bag station at the entrance of the cul-de-sac. Honestly, the way she was phrasing her accusations was just grammatically offensive. I spent 20 minutes correcting her use of who versus whom in a thread about canine waste. I was actually pissed about it, honestly. After everything Mark did, I just needed something I could actually fix. Mark saw me typing and just shook his head. You're actually arguing about dog poop on the internet? He asked. It's about the principle, Mark. If the sidewalk looks like a mess, the property values drop, I said. While I was doing that, I had a spreadsheet open in another window with Mark's business expenses. I found these payments to a boutique hotel in the city. They weren't listed as meetings. They were listed as consulting fees paid to Corey King, so Corey wants just the mistress. She was getting paid. Mark was literally using our joint accounts to pay her to be with him. I started looking into Sarah too, Mark's sister. I went into the guest room, where Shed stayed a few months back, and went through the trash can. The one Shed emptied right before she left. I found a bunch of scribbled notes and a receipt for a hotel in a city Mark had no reason to visit, tucked into an old handbag of hers. Sarah wasn't just keeping the secret, she was the one organizing it. She was the one giving him the cover stories and acting as the lookout. A few days later, Corey King decided to stop being subtle. She actually called my personal phone. Lindsay, she said. Her voice was all soft and breathy, like she was trying to be compassionate. I think we should be honest. Mark is unhappy. He's been unhappy for years. I'm not trying to be the villain, but I think it would be easier for everyone, especially the kid. So if you just stepped aside, I can even help you with the transition. I know where the assets are, and I can make sure you're taken care of as long as you don't make this a scene. What do you mean by taken care of? I asked. A fair settlement, she said. Something that lets you keep your lifestyle without a public fight. Mark is a good man, but he's just outgrown you. I see, I said. That's very thoughtful of you, Corey. I just think it's the adult thing to do. I agree. Being an adult is all about making the right moves, I told her. I hung up and called Marcus. The mistress called me and offered to help me with the settlement, I said. She admitted she knows where the assets are. Did the recording software work? Yes, Marcus said. That admission is huge. It links her to the misappropriation of funds. She's a co-conspirator in the fraud now. Great, I said. Move the rest of the liquid assets into the offshore account. I want him to have just enough to cover a studio apartment and a used car. The next Saturday, the neighborhood was buzzing. For the 4th of July block party, I was running around with a clipboard, arguing with the Millers about the potato salad and whether the bounce house would get us fined by the HOA. I noticed the Millers' hedge was slightly overgrown, probably by an inch, and it was driving me insane. I kept stepping around it, wondering how they could just let it happen. Mark was sitting on the porch looking exhausted. He still hadn't cleaned those gutters. The Millers are bringing a vegan potato salad, Mark. Can you believe that? I asked. Who wants vegan potato salad? I don't care, Lindsay, he said. Well, I care. It's a block party. It's supposed to be traditional, I said. I walked over and patted his shoulder. You look stressed. Everything okay at work? Yeah, he said. Just a lot of projects. You should take a nap, I said. I'll handle the sign-up sheet. I went inside and sat at the kitchen table. I opened my laptop and looked at the final documents. The forged signatures were perfect. The asset transfers were hidden. The accountant had mapped out every cent Mark had leaked to Corey and Sarah. He was going to be broke. When the papers hit his desk, he wouldn't just be losing a wife. He'd be losing everything. He'd have a diamond bracelet on his wife's wrist and a bank balance that couldn't even cover a decent dinner. I spent the next hour replying to 3 more Nextdoor threads about how to dispose of old paint cans, using way too many exclamation points. Around 4 p.m., the front door opened. Mark walked in and Sarah was with him. She was carrying groceries and smiling. Surprise, Sarah yelled. I thought I'd come over and help with the block party prep. I looked up from my laptop and smiled back. That's so sweet of you, Sarah, I said. Can you help me? I found a colony of ants invading the pantry, and I really need someone to hold the flashlight while I spray the baseboards. Sarah's smile dropped a little. Oh, right now. Yeah, right now, I said before they get into the flour. I stood up and walked toward the kitchen, leaving them in the hallway. I didn't look back. I just went to the pantry and reached for the spray. I 34F think I just accidentally ruined my life while trying to ruin my husband's 36 meters. I told Sarah to get down there with the flashlight. I didn't even look at her. I just kept spraying that chemical foam into the pantry cracks. The smell was gross, like bleach and fake lemons, and the nozzle on the can kept sticking, which was just annoying. But I didn't really care. I just wanted her on her knees in a cramped pantry, while I figured out how to dismantle her brother's life. I can see anything, Lindsay, Sarah said. The light is just bouncing off the paint. Just hold it steady, I told her. If ants get into the organic flour, I'm going to lose it. Just hold the light. Mark was in the living room. He was probably on his phone, wondering why I was taking so long. I wanted him to feel that little itch of curiosity. I just kept spraying in a slow line along the floor. I wasn't even thinking about the marriage at that point. I was thinking about the secondary lien Marcus had filed. Basically, it puts a leash on the house. Mark thought he still had the equity, but on paper it belonged to a trust now. He couldn't touch it without a court order he'd never get. Once I was done, I told Sarah she could go. She looked relieved, like she'd just escaped something. I gave her a big smile and thanked her for the help. You're welcome, she said. She looked at Mark, then back at me. You guys seem fine. I mean, really fine. We're great, I said. Mark's just stressed with work. As soon as they left, I jumped on my laptop for a Zoom call with Marcus. I didn't even change out of my cleaning clothes. I just threw a blazer over my t-shirt. The asset transfer is done, Marcus told me. Liquid assets are moved. He has about $12,000 left in the joint checking. That's enough so he doesn't panic and call the bank. But not enough to hire a real lawyer to fight you. And the report, I asked. It's a mess, Marcus said. Between the consulting fees to Corey King and the hotels, he's drained a huge chunk of the marital estate. We can just argue that he wasted the money. So he gets zero for those funds, and he might even have to pay some of it back. I don't want it back, I said. I just want him to have nothing. The next few days were just weird. I was doing all these high-stakes legal moves while living the most boring life possible. I spent half my time arguing with Mark about the most random stuff, like the grocery list or the insurance email about the roof. Mark would walk by and see me typing on my laptop and just shake his head. "What are you doing now?" he asked. "Checking the gutters for the insurance guy, Mark," I told him. "The street looks like a landfill, by the way. You need to deal with the bins." He just groaned and walked away. He was so checked out. He didn't even notice. I was wearing a different pair of expensive earrings. Every day the ones he'd bought me. I was basically wearing his money while I stole the rest of it. Andrew Fowler was the only person I could actually talk to. He'd been my best friend since college and knew everything. Go to his place on Fridays. We'd have some wine and I'd show him the plan. "You're a genius," Lines, Andrew told me one night. He was leaning back in his chair looking at some spreadsheets. "The secondary lien? That's cold. I love it." "Just being precise," I said. "Same thing," he laughed. "Just make sure the paper trail for the trust is locked down. If Mark gets a good lawyer, they'll look for fraudulent conveyance. You can't just move money because you're mad. It has to look legitimate." "I have the signatures," I told him. "Marcus handled it. They look exactly like Mark's." "Perfect, you've got him." I trusted Andrew with everything. He was the one pushing me to be aggressive. When I first found the burner phone, I was shaky. Andrew told me that FAIR was for people who hadn't been cheated on. He told me to go for the throat. About 2 weeks before the final filing, I went back to Andrew's. He was in the kitchen making tacos and left his phone on the counter. It started buzzing like nonstop. I don't usually look at his phone, but I saw Mark's name on the screen. I stood there for a second. Then I grabbed it and swiped up. He didn't even have a passcode. There was a text thread between Mark and Andrew that went back months. I started scrolling and I just felt sick. "Andrew, hook, line, and sinker. She thinks she's the one playing you. She's moving the money exactly where we want it. Andrew." The burner phone worked perfectly. She found it exactly when I thought she would. The jewelry receipts I forged were a nice touch. She's so obsessed with the paper trail. She didn't even check if the stores were real. I had to lean against the counter. I kept reading, just scanning the words. "Andrew, yeah. Since she's the one forging the signatures and moving the money, she's the one committing fraud. Once she moves the bulk of the estate into that secret account, we file the report. She won't just lose the house, she'll be looking at a felony. You get the kids, you keep the assets, and she goes to jail or pays a massive settlement to avoid it." I stood there in the silence of the kitchen. I could smell the taco meat, the phone, the receipts, the shoebox. It was all a setup. Andrew wasn't helping me. He was Mark's guy. He'd pushed me to be aggressive and encouraged me to forge signatures and move money into accounts that were designed to be tracked. He coached me into committing a crime so Mark could use it to take everything. I heard the fridge close. Andrew walked back in with some shredded lettuce. He saw me. He saw his phone in my hand. He didn't even jump. He just stopped and looked at me. "Jesus, Lindsay," he said. "You weren't supposed to see that yet." I couldn't speak. My throat felt tight. "Look," Andrew said, putting the lettuce on the counter. "Mark didn't want to do this. But you're a lot to live with. He just wanted a way out that didn't leave him broke. We just used your own habits against you." I looked at the phone. Then at him. I was sweating. "The signatures," I whispered. "The ones Marcus helped me with." "Marcus is a great lawyer," Andrew said, "but he was just doing what you told him to do. He didn't know the evidence you gave him was fake. But the act of forging them? That's real. Moving the funds? That's real. And since you did it in secret, it's theft." My heart was hammering. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I wasn't the boss. I was the fall girl. "What happens now?" I asked. Andrew shrugged. "Well, Mark's lawyer has the file. They are just waiting for the right moment. Probably at the first mediation. You can sign over the house and the kids with no alimony, or we go to the DA." I stood there for a minute. I looked at the lettuce, the taco shells, the wine. "I really liked you, Andrew," I said. "I know," he said. "That's why it worked." I put his phone back on the counter. I just felt empty. I turned around and walked toward the door. "You forgot your purse!" Andrew called out. I didn't stop. I got in my car and sat there. I looked at the passenger seat where the burner phone had first appeared months ago. I remembered how proud I felt finding it. How smart I felt for playing the long game. Sitting in my car right now. I don't know where to go. Does anyone know if Ada actually follows through on this kind of thing? Or if I can actually fight this? I drove home and just sat in the garage for like 20 minutes, just staring at the wall. My assy was blowing this weird smell, like something was burning, but I didn't even care. I wasn't crying or anything. I just kept thinking about the taco meat and the lettuce, and the look on Andrew's face. He actually thought he had me, like he was playing some high-level game. And I was just the woman who likes to organize things. When I went inside, Mark was in the kitchen getting water. He gave me this look, not a full smile, just this little twitch of his mouth. He probably thought I was having a total meltdown. Everything okay lines? Yeah, I told him. I just remembered. I have to get the receipts for the CPA. April's coming up. And if we don't get the shoebox sorted, we're just throwing money away on accounting fees. He just blinked. The receipts? Now yes, Mark. I can't deal with the stress of doing this last minute. I paused. Anyway, did you see next door? Brenda is convinced someone's golden retriever is leaving poop all over Maple Street. She posted a photo of a dog that looks like literally any golden, about to tell her that a photo of a breed isn't actually proof. Mark sighed and just walked out. He thought I was just being annoying and obsessed with details. I guess he thought that was a weakness. It was actually a great cover. As soon as he was gone, I locked the bedroom door and called Marcus. He set me up, I said. Both of them. Andrew and Mark. They wanted me to move the money and forge the signatures so they could report me for fraud and take the kids and the house. Andrew basically admitted it. There was a silence for a second. Did you record him? Marcus asked. No, but I saw the text on Andrew's phone. Okay, Marcus said. Listen. Don't say a word to Mark. Don't change anything. Just keep being the woman who cares about the Hoa. We're going to pivot. If they conspired to get you to commit a crime, that's a huge problem for them. Plus, we have those consulting fees to Corey King. If Mark was using joint money for a mistress while trying to frame his wife, a judge is going to destroy him. I want him to have nothing, I said. Not a fair settlement. Nothing. I can do that, Marcus told me. But you have to keep playing the part. Keep the shoebox. Keep arguing on next door. Give me 2 weeks. So, for the next 14 days, I just existed. I spent hours in the living room, with a literal shoebox of crumpled thermal paper. It was honestly miserable. You know those gas station receipts that curl up the second you touch them? I had hundreds of them. I spent a whole Tuesday afternoon trying to remember if a heavy-duty stapler I bought 3 years ago was for work or for the house. It was the most boring time of my life. Mark would walk by and look at me with this look of pure pity. You're really spending your Saturday doing that. That's about the bottom line, Mark, I said. If we can't prove the deduction, we're just giving the government a tip. Also, the gutters on the west side are clogged. I saw a pile of leaves this morning. If it rains, the guest room ceiling is probably going to leak, and that's a $3,000 fix. I'll do it tomorrow, he said. You said that last week. Just do it. By the way, do you want the low-fat yogurt or the Greek kind? I'm making the list. He just groaned and left. He was so sure he'd won that he stopped even trying to be sneaky. He started taking calls from Corey right in the living room. He'd just step a few feet away and whisper, yeah, almost there. A few more days and shell sign. I can't wait to be out of this. I just kept sorting receipts. I found one for a steakhouse from 6 months ago that I didn't recognize. I put it in a suspicious pile and wrote down the date. Marcus eventually found out that Mark wasn't just paying. Corey had been putting money into a private investment account in his mother's name. He thought he was being smart, but he'd been lazy with the transfers, using the same account links we'd used for the joint account for years. The day before mediation, I was on next door again. Brenda finally caught the dog owner, but it was just some guy from 2 streets over who wasn't even in the Hoa. The whole thread turned into this massive fight about whether the Hoa could fine people who don't live there. I spent 3 hours writing a response about the community bylaws. I was actually getting kind of worked up. I wrote something about how letting the neighborhood become a minefield of dog crap was unacceptable. Mark saw my screen and actually laughed. You're unbelievable, Lindsay. You're fighting about dog poop while your life is falling apart. I looked up and smiled. I just think standards are important, Mark. The next morning was the mediation. It was in this depressing office building downtown that smelled like old carpet and that burnt coffee they have in those glass pots. Mark showed up in his best suit, looking like he'd already won. Andrew was there too, acting as the advisor. Andrew gave me a little wink. He thought he was the mastermind. He thought I was about to sign over the house and the kids for nothing. We sat at this big, generic conference table. Mark's lawyer, Greg, who looked like he'd never smiled in his life, opened a folder. "We have the evidence of the transfers," Greg said. "The signatures are verified. The funds were moved into a secret trust by Mrs. Moore. We're offering a lenient settlement if she signs over the house and waives alimony and child support." I didn't say anything. I just looked at Marcus. Marcus didn't even open his folder. He just leaned back. "That's interesting," Marcus said, "because we have evidence that the trust was suggested by Mr. Moore and Andrew Fowler. We have the coordinated manipulations, the forged receipts, the burner phone. The whole thing was designed to trap Mrs. Moore into a civil error." Mark's face went from smug to confused pretty fast. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the texts on Andrew's phone," Marcus said. "The ones where you two talk about how to hook, line, and sinker Lindsay so you could report her. Moving money is one thing, but conspiring to induce someone to commit fraud? That's extreme bad faith in a divorce." Andrew shifted in his seat. "I don't know what you're talking about." And then Marcus continued. "There's the $80,000 in marital funds paid to Corey King. And the offshore account in your mother's name. Mark, the one you funded with money from the joint accounts." Mark went pale. He looked at Andrew, then back at Marcus. Those were business expenses," Mark stammered. "Business expenses for a mistress?" Marcus asked. "I don't think a judge is going to go for that. Between the hidden accounts and the attempted fraud, we aren't looking for a lenient settlement. We want a total redistribution." Mark finally looked at me. "Lindsay, wait. We can talk about this. I don't even know why you're talking right now, Mark." "Seriously." I looked at him. "I spent 2 weeks organizing a shoebox for the CPA. Do you know how boring that is? I spent 4 hours looking for a receipt for a box of nails, while you were telling Corey you couldn't wait to get rid of me. I was just stressed," Mark yelled. "You were precise," I said. "I just more precise than you." Marcus slid a paper across the table. "Here's the offer," Marcus said. "Mark signs over the house. He signs over the account in his mother's name. He pays a lump sum of $200,000 for the dissipated funds. Lindsay keeps the kids. Mark gets a visitation, schedule subject to court approval, and he leaves with exactly what he had 10 years ago." "I can't do that!" Mark screamed. "It'll be broke. Then I guess you'll need a cheap apartment," I said. "Maybe something near Maple Street. I hear the sidewalks are clean there." Andrew tried to say something. "Now look, this is just..." "Shut up, Andrew," I said. I didn't even look at him. "You're not a lawyer. You're just a guy was bad at hiding things on his phone." The mediation lasted another 3 hours. Mark tried to fight. Then he tried to cry. Then he tried to bargain. He offered the diamond bracelet back. He offered therapy. But he knew if he didn't sign, Marcus was taking the conspiracy and the tax evasion stuff straight to the DA. By 4 p.m. he signed. He just sat there, slumped in the chair. He had no house, no investment account, no money. He basically paid for his own ruin. As we were leaving, Andrew stood up. "You really did it," he said. "You played us." "I didn't play you, Andrew," I said. "I just sorted the receipts." "You forgot that the person who handles the boring stuff usually knows where everything is hidden." I walked out into the afternoon light. I didn't feel some huge rush or anything. I just felt done, like I finally had a clean slate. I drove home in the minivan. I noticed there was still a little bit of sticky residue in the cup holder from an apple juice spill, even after I'd scrubbed it. Just a small sticky circle. I pulled into the driveway and saw a next-door notification. Brenda had started a new thread about the unacceptable height of a backyard fence. People were already fighting about sightline obstructions. I sat there for a minute. Then I opened the app and started typing a response about city zoning ordinances. I went inside, walked into the kitchen, and threw the shoebox of receipts in the trash. Then I checked the pantry for ants. There weren't any. I sat on the couch and remembered. I needed to call the insurance guy about the gutters. If it rained tomorrow, the roof was definitely going to leak. Husband and his advisor tried to frame me for financial fraud to get the house and kids. I played the boring, obsessive wife for 2 weeks, while my lawyer found their hidden accounts and texts. He ended up signing over everything just to avoid jail.